Good evening and welcome to the studio this evening. Tonight I'm going to carry on with doing this railway locomotive. I just haven't quite decided what bits of this railway locomotive. Where's my reference drawing gone? Okay. Partes is here. Hi, welcome to the studio this evening. Nice to see you again. And how are you doing? I think it's probably worth trying to do some of the stuff on the tender, the wheels on the tender. And I'm just studying my drawing to work out what else is around there. The windows also show up black. Oh, that's okay. For no problem with you missing a stream. There's no mandatory requirement that you have to be here. I'm sure some streamers would like to have that, but no, it's by no means necessary to definitely be around. But thank you for apologising. You know it's not necessary. And you're great. That's wonderful. I'm not doing too bad, thank you. It's a bit of a confused day today, so I'm just just finished doing something else and jumped straight on the stream. So my brain's just ticking over a little bit, trying to just catch back up with what on earth I was doing or intending to do. Which is mainly just sort of do some of the stuff around here. And I'm going to cheat and simplify things a little bit. So I'm going to do some black. And yeah. The reference picture, and quite a few of the reference pictures that I show, this locomotive is really shiny, so it reflects the sky and the colours look different. So I was just wondering myself quite what I'm going to do in terms of the colours. And some of these black areas here, even though they're black shiny, they're reflecting a lot of light. What were you doing before? Before this, immediately before this I was doing some scraper board. I can show you, because it's finished. Being very careful not to scratch it, but that's the piece I finished. The collective we on this stream finished just before I started doing the Punchcraft. That's probably now 3 days ago. So we finished that. That's my third ever scraper board piece, and the first time I've ever used colour on one, and I really like the colour. I shall put this away safe. I'm going to have to get some acrylic varnish to varnish these so that they are protected from, well, both from finger marks, but mainly from things like scratches. So I have that set in a precariously safe place. How did I add? Oh, thank you for that. How did I add the colour? It's is ink. It's green ink, but it's supposedly a specially formulated green ink, which is intended for use on scraper board. Lighting's terrible, because lighting's always a problem with this stuff, because now you'll get glare. But yes, a scraper board ink. The idea is that this ink is supposedly formulated so that it doesn't sink too far into the clay, which is what scraper board is. The white on the scraper board is. By not sinking too far into it, it means that you can scrape it again or scratch it again to get back to the white underneath. So with a black version of this, for example, you can sort of repair scratches you didn't want and then scrape over them again to form scratches that you do want. But the colour obviously is to add colour, and that green just happened to work really nicely as grass. And quite literally, I think all of that green on there was done with 3 drops, literally 3 drops of ink. So it goes a long way, which to my Yorkshireman heart is quite a nice thing. Yeah, it is. And one of the slightly nice things about it, you might have seen the variations in the green, and that's where the ink was a little bit thicker, or I did a second layer in some cases of ink after it had dried, and it got darker green, and it really, grass looked really nice on that. So yes. 1, 2, 3. I am just thinking if I have, well, I know I've not got enough black out, but we shall, oh, maybe I have. We shall see about that in a moment. I was going to do some areas just down here, around this tender, so sort of hinting at things that are there rather than actually doing much in the way of details. Yeah, I never thought of doing what I'm just about to do, and that is holding. It doesn't work. Okay. I was just about to try doing this just off the edge of the table here, but that didn't seem to work too well. It works better if I support the material from underneath. This one that I'm doing here with the locomotive, or the one that I showed you with the grass. I'm not quite sure which one you're referring to, Parties, is here. Quite happily explain either, just need to know which one you mean. This one, okay. Okay, what I was wondering what the noise was. It's a pussycat. So what this is this is a technique which the manufacturer calls Punchcraft. I don't know if it's actually got another name, and other manufacturers that do similar things probably call them various similar sort of names. But what it entails is most of this complicated looking thing is really just a needle holder and a depth gauge. That's all that this essentially is. So this is a needle. It's a hollow needle. So, and it's, if you're familiar with a hypodermic needle, it's shaped like one, but it's not that sharp or that small. Well, hypodermic needles come quite large, so it's shaped like one, but it's not as sharp as one. So I can do that without puncturing myself. This is just a cotton-based thread, and there are various threads I could use. Anything from wool that's used for knitting. I could use a sort of string, through embroidery cottons, through to nylon cotton that you'd sew up clothes with, for example. So there's various threads available that I can use. It's threaded down through the needle, which is hollow, and then it's threaded through a tiny hole in the side to come out the side, which is why you see it hanging off to one edge there. Now the fact that it comes through the side is quite important, because it wouldn't work without that. So what happens then with this tool is you push it through this material, and in doing so the thread is caught between the needle and the material, which is kind of like a friction thing. It sort of holds it in place. So whilst I push this needle through, the thread is held in place, which means it pulls more out of the needle and from the reel at the top. When I get to the end of the needle, basically the end of the needle touches the material, I can't go any further. So what happens then is I draw it back. Now in drawing it back, a loop is formed. I don't know if you can see that. It's if not, I'll zoom in a bit more. Until I actually pull the needle out of the material, and then the sort of the hole that it created, which is done by sort of pushing the material to one side, closes up and it grasps that loop. So then what I do is I put the needle back through the material, which again grasps that material, that grasps the thread. I extend it until I can't go any further. When I pull it back, I get another loop, and I keep on doing that basically, and moving a little bit to one side each time until I fill in the whole area. So you get lots of loops, and that's what's on the other side of this material, which is on here. So just lots of loops, and here's the few I've just done. They look really sort of lonely and untidy on that side. They'll look a bit better when I get some more colours around it. And essentially that's it. All I do then is just using this pattern that I've put on the back, I just fill in these areas. It's a bit like painting by numbers really, type of thing. I just fill in the areas with the colour that I want to use, and I can change the thread if I want a different colour. It just means rethreading the needle. The size of the loops is controlled by the depth of this needle, and I can make it longer or shorter, so I have some control over that as well. That can be used to make sort of a sculpted surface on the other side, so it's not just all flat. I can put bridges in it and little dips in it, which work well on some pictures. I'm not going to be doing it on this one, but this one's going to be flat, but on others. And not a lot else to say. I can make rugs, but using a slightly different tool, which is larger so the larger the thread, the larger the needle that you need, basically the larger diameter. So if I'm going to use wool, I use a larger diameter needle. If I'm going to do really fine cottons, I use a smaller diameter. And next question people ask generally is, can it be done on any material? The answer probably is no. This material is sold by the people that sell this, and it works. I've tried similar material from a shop before, or similar looking material, and it just fell apart as I was using it. I do understand you can do this on denim like jeans, but I've never tried it. And the rug stuff I use for rugs is heavier duty than this, but it's a similar sort of idea. Laser, welcome to the studio this evening. Good evening. So what else? Can't really say much else about it then. It's that's kind of all there is to it. It's a very sort of simple tool really, and a very simple technique, but it works surprisingly well. And you can end up doing things anything from about sort of 2 inches tall, or even less I suppose, but depends on what you're doing. If you're doing like a Christmas tree for example, all one colour, green, you get too small and it just gets silly, but from about 1 inch, 2 inches tall, all the way up to something several feet in diameter if you're doing it with rugs and wools. Right, I've done a bit of stuff down there. I'm going to do a little bit more stuff down there. Yeah, okay. So the only real trick to doing this really is ensuring that you get enough, I call them stitches because I don't actually know what you really should call these, punches, loops, in an area, so that when you look at it on the other side you don't see white showing through, because generally you don't want that, and there are enough loops in the area to make it look like you want it to look basically. A little bit of an awkward statement I suppose, but I'm working quite slow just around here. It's actually quite awkward to work on the edge of the image or against the edge of the loop here. So I'm just taking my time on this section. I will get a bit faster when we do some of the other sections. The other thing is that although this looks like you could get a lot of detail into it, because you'd think like one loop is like 1 pixel, it doesn't quite work that way. This is kind of like the equivalent of probably about 12 pixels to the inch at best. So it's quite a coarse resolution. So sometimes picking images that work well like that, or being able to adapt images to work at that resolution is an interesting skill. It's part of the skill that you need to work with this medium. No, I won't, basically. A, because I don't want to. I don't do that sort of thing. And B, because I tend to react badly to people telling me what to do, especially if they're not paying me to do it. But other than that, you're welcome in the studio. Thank you for dropping in. And thank you very much for following. That's most kind of you. I do like, well, I do like it, and I appreciate everybody that does follow. Okay, just fill in the area around here with black. There's not a lot of detail that's going to be visible. That's that. Yeah, it's going to be just basically all black and quite difficult to see anything. She-Devil, good evening. Welcome to the stream this evening. Nice to see you again. Yeah. I'm trying to work out which bits I want which colour. Oh dear. Well, I'm hoping it should stream okay on the iPad. Hopefully you've got it back by now. I specifically keep the bit rate down so that it's possible to pick it up even on the old iPad. Oh, that's a pity. Must be some problem in the internet somewhere that's causing a bit of lag. Now that doesn't make any sense. Hubbub. No. Right, I'm just trying to decide what to do with the windows. I think actually I'll do them dark grey rather than black. So there's windows in the side here and there's windows down here. Now the windows themselves should be outlined in gold or a brass, I guess, but I'm not going to do that because it basically won't show up and it'll just make it look a little bit untidy if I do that. So I'm not going to actually bother. So whilst I've got black in, I've just added sort of some black around there. That's sort of the gap between the engine and the tender. and there's a lot of black down here, but there'll be some other colours going in shortly and some grey underneath for the wheels. So it doesn't look much, but it'll look better as we add extra colours in, again as before. So I'm just going to do a section around here. I think again we've got the problem of reflecting light, which I'll put what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a bit of space just alongside that dotted line. I think it's a curved area, so I might put some lighter blue in there perhaps. Just so it reflects the light back. We'll see how that goes. Actually no, I'm not going to do the black, because one of the things I want to do is I want to put that rail in first before I do the black, mainly because if I do the black first I won't be able to see the line, and it is really just a line. So I'm going to do that before I do this. So it means I'm going to put the black back in anyway, so I'm going to change the black now. That's a bit convoluted thinking, but effectively it means I'm going to change colours. I'm going to change colours to the light grey, so it's a silver looking colour, and I've got a few bits around here to do, including the wheels. And for this I need the really long threader. That must be what, 6 inches long? No problem, She-Devil. Sorry to hear that you've got a problem. Hopefully it'll be better another time. Okay, so I'll thread the needle. I'll thread the threader through the needle so that I can then thread the thread through the threader. And it always, it's, I don't know if you can see, but it's quite a large gap that this thread wants to go through, but it's quite a fluffy thread. And it's always a problem getting it through there. It never wants to go through that space. There we go. But the real challenge about threading the needle is when you come to thread it through this tiny hole in the side of the needle. And you absolutely could not do either of these without a needle threader. You have to get that to go through and stay through, which is not wanting to do, because there's two. The thread is actually two. It's what they call two ply. It's two threads wound or twisted together. They always want to come apart. This is kind of. They don't always want to come apart, but when you have a problem in trying to thread it, it's one of the problems is because they come apart, and one will go through the threader, but the other won't. And you end up having a challenging time to get them both to go through sometimes. 1, 2, 3. Now then. Okay, so I've got some of the control gear that goes down the sides of the wheels and the wheel rims down there. I want to do in this light colour, so I'm going to start here, as it's as good a place as any, and I'm going to get rid of that grey thread that's stuck up there. I normally leave it, but this thread is they're always somewhat of a trolley threads, because they always get in your way. Ow. Now if I was drawing this, I'd be using all sorts of shading around here, because there's all sorts of shadows involved. But with this and with the limited colour palette and the limited resolution, a lot of things like shading go out of the window. So they do tend to be a little bit more cartoon-like, the Punchcraft pictures like this. Oh, you're going to try something different, Fear Reaper. What do you think you might try this time? Are you going on to ZBrush or something completely different? Are we going to get you to try something like, I don't know, clay sculpting or something like that? Papercraft. Ah. Um, 3D Bloke makes papercraft models, or made. I think he's got something like a Millennium Millennium Falcon in papercraft, and somebody else on stream did it as well. And I can't remember. Was it you that pointed it out to me, Fear Reaper, then before? And actually showed me a site, I think, with where you could download patterns. Yeah, I know what you mean about the plastic kits being expensive. There's quite a few I'd love to be able to do, but yes, some people obviously don't learn. Feel free to ban if you feel it. Yeah, I was going to say if you feel it appropriate. Fear Reaper, I'm not about to question you if you do that. Fluffy Twiggler. Well, Thank you very much for that compliment. um, Thank you, Fury. But what I meant was, if you make a decision, it's a decision made. I'm not gonna, you don't need to frame me arbitrarily changing the decision that you've made. You know, if I didn't trust you with it, I wouldn't give you the power to do it. And as simple as that. I don't know. I don't know about impressing people though, Fluffy Twig. It's more a case of I think I'd get bored doing the same thing all the time. So I do lots of different arts and crafts, and I tend to do lots of different image types, or image styles. And this is a locomotive. We did a cottage in the scraper board. I think what was I've forgotten what it was a sunset, Savannah sunset for the pyrography. And although did a different engine last time I did Punchcraft, it was an diesel electric rather than this is a steam engine. It's kind of different enough for me to be not getting bored with doing the same thing time after time after time. So I think my skills would probably be better if I did the same thing all the time, same craft or whatever, but I'd probably do less of it because I'd be bored and want to do something different. I'd probably end up playing a lot more games or something. So that just down to there around, no, that's dark grey. Okay. Yep, try and keep this in frame. I have a habit of moving off a frame if I'm not careful. It's why it's not zoomed in. If you want a closer view, by the way, just for a while, just say so and I'll zoom in. I know it's probably quite difficult to see what I'm actually doing, but hey. Oh, I was about to say Eddie Fall Guy. Good evening, welcome to the studio this evening. I'm a little bit behind on chat, I can see. I'll catch up on your question in a minute, Fluffy Twiglet. Okay, Laser, have a good evening and hope you have a good sleep. Well done. Good good luck in your class tomorrow morning. 7:30. It sounds early. Then what do I call? What do I do? Generally speaking, it gets drawn onto paper first. Or you use some form of something like this, which I then I either print it out using a laser printer, or I've got a transfer pen, which I sort of go over the outline, because that's about all the detail I can get in, and then use an iron to transfer that onto the material. I can use anything to mark the material. I could use a pencil. I could actually use an ink pen, because generally speaking, with this, when I've finished, the other side is completely covered, so you wouldn't see an ink pen if I'd done it using sort of a marker pen, even if it come through onto this side. Only if I was using white over a black marker on this side, might I have a problem where it would show through, but generally speaking, if it's on the other side, which is the working side, you're not going to see that at all. So this is, as I say, you can either just use a laser printer, because when you heat with the iron, the toner, which is a plastic, will sort of transfer onto the material. The pen, I have no idea what the pen's made out of, but it effectively does the same thing. And I think actually a wax pencil will probably do the same thing again as well, to form the image. This one's quite nice in that it's not rubbing off. Some of the other transfer stuff tends to rub off. Next, carving piece. I'm not sure what to do next for carving. Next you'd love the next pyrography piece. Not what to see it done, or I'm not due to do pyrography now for a few. What will probably be what's next? Yeah, probably a few weeks before we get back into pyrography. Or did you mean you'd like to see the one I've just done? Not quite sure there, Fluffy Twiglet. So I've done the light around there. Oh, it's the wheels. That's what I was going to do next. There should be some other colours in with these wheels, but they're too small to get much detail in, so we won't. Hello, pussycat. We've got a visitor here. I don't know if he's actually going to appear, but and I hope he doesn't disrupt the stream, because he's walking across my keyboard. So, no, you can't stay there, I'm afraid. Oh, sorry. If he'd sat a little bit further over, he could have done, but he's now gone in a huff. He's going to go sit over on the other desk. What's that technique called? Sewing, stabbing. The manufacturer calls it punchcraft. I'm punching a needle through material. That's probably about the nearest thing to it. It's not a sewing, because the sewing implies you're going from one side to the other side, and holding. You see, what am I trying to say? It's not sewing. It's probably the easiest way. Yes, I'm stabbing this through, but that kind of sounds a bit violent. Mind you, so does punching, for that matter. Yeah, Fear Reaper's right in what it's. There are, different manufacturers call it slightly different things. They all tend to be sort of variations on punching. It's really a difficult thing to say. I mean, if you imagine what a punch does, in that it puts a hole in something, the material. This is sort of doing the same thing. It's pushing a hole through and then leaving the thread that it's just dragged through in the hole. Ideally, what this needle is doing is pushing literally they're pushing the threads of the material to one side. In practice, it does cut through some of them as well, but that's okay. This material seems to be made to withstand that. Ow. My skin is not really meant to withstand it, but usually does. Okay, I think I need to switch to a dark grey now. Might come back to this light grey again, but okay, fair enough, Fear Reaper. So there's some small areas of dark grey around here to do, and the windows I want to do in a dark grey. Black seems a little bit too black for them. Right. Small section around here. Oh, don't worry about the questions, Fluffy Twiglet. That's quite alright. I don't mind. One of the reasons why I like streaming is people ask questions. It makes it more interesting, and everybody gets to learn something. So I don't mind that at all. So we've just done some dark grey in there. As you can see, not a lot of detail, but it's just adds a little bit more. Slightly a little bit more definition to what otherwise would just be a single block of colour. I've done that once, 84 guy. I don't think I'll do it again, or not very often anyway, but I have done exactly that same thing. Now this material, this material it's made out of tends to fray somewhat once it's cut, so you keep getting sort of long threads just coming off the edges. Of course, once you frame it, or if you're permanently mounting a hoop, for example, you can trim it, and you can always put like a drop of glue around the outside of the material, or if it's being sort of stretched onto like a frame, the edges can be hemmed to stop the fraying as well. So. But just while you're making it, you tend to end up with lots of little bits just flying off. Now that is a problem, 84 guy. Okay, so I'll do the windows now. As I mentioned earlier, as I mentioned earlier, these really should be outlined in, I think it's a gold colour, but there's just too much detail to try and get in, so I'm not actually going to bother. Good evening, welcome back, Fear Reaper. Galiati, good evening, welcome to the studio, welcome back. I take it you've sorted out your kitting problem. Very likely, Fear Reaper, yeah. Now then, so I've got some dark grey in here. Mallard is silver or brass. Oh, I know what I want you to do. That brass there and do the brass funnel, and then the. Actually, while I've got the brass, I think the mallard's probably meant to be silver, so I'll probably just throw some silver in, and then we can start with the blue, and then it's all the stuff around it. Okay. Hopefully it'll come through soon. change to the brass and then the silver afterwards. Oh yes, yeah, definitely a background. Well, I don't have to do one, I suppose, for Free Twiglet, but it does look better if I make it a full panel rather than just this section. And if I was going to leave it as just that without the background, then what I would have done is I'd have started sculpting a lot of this, reducing the size of the loops on the edges, so that what they do is these big loops don't become sort of they can become sort of ragged looking as they sort of spread out a little bit. If I reduce the size a little bit on a row and then reduce it again, so I get quite low loops on the edge, they support each other, and the very low loops on the edge basically are so close to this material they don't need support. It's what I will actually do on the very edge around here, but they do look a bit better. I'll show you you've probably not seen the other one. But that's the other one that was done. So it's a full full image with a background. I think it looks a lot better than just the locomotive on its own. It doesn't actually take too long. I know you sort of suggesting determination there, but to be honest, it's about the locomotive is about a third of the whole thing, and it's sort of like the sky or the grass is large blocks of a single colour, and that goes quite quickly. It's more It's more a case of you haven't supplied something yet, 84 guy. Oh yes, I was threading the gold. That's all right. I can understand the mistake, Kylie Art. It was kind of funny in a way. It's down to PayPal, I'm afraid, at that point. They've been told to do it. It's now down to them. Right, so I need to. I've got the steam whistle on the front and this rail down the side. I'll do the name panel in silver, or I'll try and do the name sort of in silver. It won't come out. It'll be like this front one, and that's larger lettering. So this is going to kind of look like just a block of silver, but it's kind of hopefully people get the idea. It's supposed to be the name of the locomotive. Right, so Now I'm only going to do this one loop wide. Yeah, but I'm going to try and get them about as close together as I can, so I get as many loops in the area as possible. That will help it to stand out a little bit better on the other side once the blue goes around it. Otherwise the loops will tend to lose themselves a little bit amongst all the blue that's there. Quite often, AD, yes. Although he does tend to do it fairly late at night. But he does steel. Oh, well, I suppose assume it's steel. What was he making the other night, Cagliati? It was chainmail for a guinea pig, I think, wasn't it? Yeah, I'm still on frame. I see, that was he did that really quickly, didn't he? Maybe what he does is absolutely fantastic, so it's kind of not surprising. Fluffy twiglet, yeah. Mm. Oh, all the best to him. I hope there's quite a few more over time. It might help Twitch to realise just that there's a lot to be done for the creative section. Yeah, that does help a lot, but I mean, it's pretty. It's Fluffy Twigger. That's what Pucky Ranger is. He's the glass blower. I think he's the only one as well. But yeah, it's. I mean, it's a fantastic craft or art form. Is that anyway? Is glass blowing. I know I can watch it for absolutely hours. Well, I suspect my eyes would get tired after a little bit with a bright light, but I could watch it for quite a long period of time. In real life, that is. I mean, on stream, I could watch it for quite a long time. Okay, so we've now got the handrail in place. I'll now do the steam whistle that's on the front. Can do it, just a moment. Oh, I can quite easily believe that Fluffy Twiddler. I mean, Dan's Gaming not so long ago, well, relatively long ago, streamed himself cleaning his bathroom. And he had something like about 2,000 or 3,000 people watch him do it. So it's kind of not really surprising. Thank you. Thank you very much for the hosting as well, Cagliati. So that's got the steam whistle on the front there. Now just put, as I said, the handrail down the side. Now it's probably time to do some of the blue, I think. Oh no, thank you, it's appreciated. Even if it's only to help you watch it, because some people I've noticed 3D did that. He could only watch at one point if he hosted me. Then he could watch his own channel hosting me, but he couldn't watch me direct. So it was, but thank you very much for doing it. That's fantastic. Yeah, so time to do some blue, I think, before I do any more up there. Do have the rails to put in and the background, but I'm going to do the main body of the locomotive first. So I need to change blues, I think. Yeah, just checking that they're the same shade. Because occasionally, well, I've had different shades just recently, and they show up. Is that one darker than that one? No, it's not. That one is darker. I haven't quite, well, the colour is actually variable, and I was looking at some old pictures of this locomotive, and it's actually had two different kinds of blue on it at different times in its life, and one's a darker blue than the other, so I guess I could use either, but I'll reserve that dark blue for just a couple of areas. That'll help maybe just show a bit of the shading. Yeah, Fear Reaper, just pull it out again is the simple answer. There's nothing locking the thread in. It's not like a sewing machine, where a sewing machine pushes a loop through. Well, it pushes a loop through, and then there's another thread that goes through the loop on the other side to lock it in place. Because this just goes through from one side, it's literally just a loop held in place just by the friction of the fabric. You could just pull it out, which is why you see me cut the threads off, because if I leave them loose and I accidentally catch one, I can pull a whole line of loops out. So yeah, if it's a mistake, just pull it out. The material is relatively self-healing. I have in the past gone over, put some thread in, pulled it out, put some more in, pulled it out, because I kept making the same mistake. About 3 or 4 times. After about the 4th time, it was starting to get a little bit. It probably wouldn't have supported doing it a 5th time, shall I say? But the fourth time was okay. So yeah, it's just that's a fairly simple matter. Yeah, that's right, Eddie Fall Guy. And whilst that's a satisfying sound, it's also kind of a little game I play with myself to try and not. Okay, that's what happens if you pull one thread through and not the other. It's sort of all, well, you might not be able to see, but it kind of just bundles up, you know. So I'll just cut that end off, otherwise it'll cause me a problem. So one of the threads was pulled through, the other just bunched up. Needle threader. Yeah, sometimes play a sort of a little game while I'm doing this, which is to try and trying to get the needle to go through without actually making that sort of crunchy noise, which, as AD says, is actually a thread breaking. And if I can do it, it means it's pushed all the threads to one side, and it's quite satisfying to do that. It's actually faster as well if you can actually get the needle in the right position. It's faster because you're not having to push hard and break a thread. Well, it's whatever's from the manufacturer, 84 guy. And partly, I guess, it's helped by the fact that if I'm going over the same place, I tend to go in the same holes. So, you're going to chase papercraft material. Oh well, that's good luck with that, Fear Reaper. It'd be fun to see what you come up with. And thank you very much, Kylie. That's most kind of you. We've only about a quarter of an hour left though on the stream today, but there's always tomorrow. Now then, I'm going to do the side as a single block. So this streamlined bit here, I'll do that as a single block, and then I'll think about this area here is sort of highly, around here it's highly polished, it's reflecting a lot of light. I may do that in a lighter colour, just because of that, and then we're into the black. So I'll do this as a single block first. Now my fingers are under here somewhere. That sharp crack which you possibly are hearing is as Eddie said earlier, the threads which are being broken by the end of the needle. And sometimes the threads fight back and you can't actually push the needle through. It just kind of jams. And if that happens, you just obviously pull back on the pressure, find a little slightly different spot, and it then generally goes through without a problem. Well, it's only a pair of sharp scissors and a craft knife, isn't it? And something to create creases with, I think. which you can use like the back of a knife for, which is quite good. But I've never tried it, to be honest. Melanen Huan. Excuse me, I'll get it right eventually. No, probably to finish all of this, probably about another 6 hours, depending on how much I talk whilst I'm doing it. That's good. There did seem to be a lot of online stuff for papercraft. You should be quite good at it, Fear Reaper, especially if you want to apply colour to the finished model before you start. I mean, papercraft's not far off a UV map, really. So you should be quite good at them. Oh right, yeah, okay, yeah, because it's a print. You can just obviously print them out on the printer, can't you? Yeah. What is that? Yeah, making your own. It's the hardest bit is just sorting out where all the tabs go, isn't it, and the slots to be able to put them together. That's not actually. I've been pulling out the loops, so effectively this is what happens when you get a problem. All the loops I put in there I've pulled out because the material is stuck in somewhere. Yeah, there was just a thread caught there, so the material wasn't being pulled off the reel, and so I've pulled out the loops that I was putting through. And the more I did, the more I'd pull out. So all I'm going to do is just go back over it again. Hopefully this time the loops will stay in. Yeah. So I'm going back through the material that I've just been through. So it's quite possible, as you can see, to go back over the same space. Let me zoom this in for a little bit just so you get a bit better view for a while, and I'll try and keep it in frame, but just move the camera a little bit. Trying to do it with the wrong hand. Unfortunately, I can't tilt the material the other way because this is just the way, being right-handed, this is kind of the natural way to hold it. It would be quite difficult for me to hold it the other way. Nope, doing it again. For some reason this thread has got, twice it's got caught. And it's quite difficult to work out what it gets caught on because there isn't really any sharp edges or anything on the outside of this needle and needle holder that I can find that thread actually can catch on, but it does from time to time seem to do so. He's sat on my other desk, or he's laid on the other desk at the moment, Fear Reaper. He was really after sitting on the chair that I'm on, but he's in a sort of funny mood at the moment in a way. He sort of just wants to be around, which is kind of a bit unusual for him. But he sort of wants to be around, sat in my chair, and if he can't get that, then he'll just sit in front of me. I think the idea is he thinks if he can sit in front of me for long enough, I'll move out of his chair, and then eventually he usually gives up and curls up on the desk just in front of me. But of course, that's the studio space at the moment, so he can't do it. So he's gone on the other desk. If he'd have curled up towards the back, I'd have let him stay there, and probably you guys no doubt would have wanted me to turn the camera around on him, but he didn't want to do that. And being the independent pussycat he is, he chooses his own path. Sounds like he's trying to push stuff off my desk, actually.
He's asking for a pin.
Okay. As long as he doesn't.
No, it just asks for a pin.
Yeah, it should time itself out. it is sort of like that, but it's it's kind of, oh, well, if I can't have it, I'm going to go somewhere else. But it's not like cats sometimes do, where if they don't get their way, like if you've been on holiday somewhere and you come back and they kind of give you the cold shoulder for a while. He's not doing that. He's still sort of friendly. He will come and sit on the desk. Didn't say he wasn't. That's what I'm saying. He is.
No, is that with me though?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mentioned it before, I could fill in this area in any direction that I want. I'm specifically going horizontally like this, just in case. That's stuck again. Just in case I run out of thread. I'm not about to, because I've got three reels of it, but in case I run out, it's easier to match a new batch of colour if they're a different batch with a horizontal line, because it would just look like a panel line or a different shade to do with lighting if I do it horizontally. If I did it sort of vertically or diagonally, then that might be a harder thing to sort of sell in as part of the image. And it's caught again. There's something about this particular reel. Let me just cut some of these other ones off because they're getting in the way. So you've got to be careful. You've actually successfully cut them off when you do that. Don't just yank the threads, because you end up pulling loops out if it hasn't quite cut off properly. Thin Mill, thank you very much for following. That's most kind of you. That's stuck again. Right, well, we've done that, done up to the level there, so what I'm going to do is cut that off and put that away. Let's cut these extra 2 loops off, then they don't accidentally catch on anything, and pull out more. Yeah, no, I gathered that. But there we've got the start of the main body of the locomotive. Have a good night, Eddie Folgay. Started to fill in, obviously, but the rest of the blue there to be done before we move up into the boiler area. So let me zoom it back out. It's a little bit close to see all of it. Should start to look more like a real locomotive now, as opposed to just a few blobs, which was there before. And my stream window, I've just realised my feedback window has frozen, but never mind. What I'm going to do is say that's it for tonight. It's now 10:10, so it's about the time to stop for the evening. Obviously tomorrow we'll carry on with doing some more of this body around here, and then whatever takes my fancy next to do more of. So if there's anybody that's watching and isn't following, I of course would appreciate you doing so if you want to, that is. It's not mandatory. If you'd just like to be notified when I go live, there is Twitter. There's a tweet goes out when I go live each time. I only do tweet art related stuff, so you're not going to get inundated with tweets if you want to follow me that way. On the other hand, if you'd just like to try and catch me on my next stream, which is tomorrow night, I stream from 8 PM in the UK, approximately 1900 hours GMT, or in whatever time zone you're in. Take a look at the clock, subtract 2 hours 10 minutes, and that would have been 8 o'clock in the UK. So now you know what time it is tomorrow. But thank you everybody for watching. It has been fun having you around, and I hope to see you again on a future stream. Bye bye.